There are loads of misconceptions about emotional intelligence. We often identify it as empathy, but it's so much more. The exciting thing about emotional intelligence is that unlike IQ, which is relatively fixed, it is really easy to build it. There is an important distinction between emotional awareness and emotional expression. We built a tool that's a scientific and reliable tool to measure your emotions and also have a personalized learning path to develop it. Show your feeling, express them to others, make them understand what you are feeling. Instead of shutting down or exploding, give them a chance to understand. Aim for something more specific, like I am anxious right now, I feel relieved right now, I'm hopeful right now, or I'm frustrated right now. So, the other side of the story is empathy. If your empathy is strong, you pick up on someone's mood. Authenticity means showing up as your real self. Taylor Swift is a great example. She was mugged for being too personal, too raw with her music, but that raw honesty is what made billions of connections and billions of dollars for her. Welcome back to another episode of Master EQ, the podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about emotional intelligence. There are loads of misconceptions about emotional intelligence. We often identify it as empathy, but it's so much more. So let's talk about what's emotional intelligence in real life and also how you can develop that. Have you ever felt completely off but couldn't explain why? Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment that you immediately regretted but couldn't stop yourself? If any of these situations sound familiar, you're not alone. We all have moments where emotions feel confusing, overwhelming, or just hard to navigate. These experiences often point to areas where emotional intelligence could use some work, like emotional awareness, impulse control, empathy, or healthy emotional expression. The exciting thing about emotional intelligence is that unlike IQ, which is relatively fixed, it is really easy to build it. The more you develop it, the more doors it opens. You can have stronger relationships, you can have less stress, you can make better decisions, and have a deeper sense of fulfillment. Research even shows that people with higher emotional intelligence often thrive through life regardless of how high their IQ is. Okay, so let's talk about what is emotional intelligence. When we talk about emotional intelligence, we are really talking about the skill of working with emotions, with yours and with other people's emotion. It's about noticing how you feel, making sense of it, and knowing how to respond instead of just reacting. Regarding what's going on with others, showing empathy and navigating relationships, it's really hard work, but it is emotional intelligence to navigate those situations, to be aware of your emotions, to regulate those emotions, to have motivation, to connect with people. That's how you can handle life with more clarity and less chaos. Emotional intelligence has a huge impact on many aspects of your life. First of all, on your work and your academic performance. Emotional intelligence is like a secret weapon at work or school. It's what makes you the person who can handle those tense and stress situations without blowing up or without being really harsh with your people. Everybody wants to be in a team because you listen, you communicate. That's how you become a really good leader. Often people in the workplace, they value emotional intelligence more or just as highly as technical skills because they know it's what turns a good worker into a great leader. Research shows that this effect is really strong on the recruiting process too, because in the hiring process, they value soft skills just as much as they value hard skills. 92% of employers say soft skills matter as much or more than hard skills. In fact, soft skills were ranked as the #1 hiring priority. So maybe it's worth to prioritize those soft skills like emotional intelligence, creativity, or critical thinking. Okay, let me tell you a story about two colleagues. Both are really smart, they are hardworking, and one of them is task-focused, always on top of numbers, but the other one is steady in conflict. He notices people's stress, he helps the team connect. So when a leadership position opens up, what do you think is going to have the promotion? You guessed it, the emotional intelligent one gets it. Why? Because managing emotions make the whole team work better. They can understand and they can communicate better with each other. Emotional intelligence also has a really big impact on your physical health. Emotions live not in just your mind, but also in your body. If stress is unmanaged, it can cause really bad headaches, high blood pressure, and also sleep issues. Building your emotional intelligence, such as awareness and stress management, it can give your body a break because you manage that stress. So with higher level of emotional intelligence, there are fewer stress-related health problems such as headaches, and the people who have higher skills, they are more likely to use healthier coping mechanisms such as exercise or problem solving. Psychological research, they constantly show that emotional intelligence makes a really big difference in how we feel and how we function. To put it in numbers, it explains about 10-15% of mental health, around 20% of anxiety and other emotional struggles, about 5-10% of physical health, and roughly 12-17% of life satisfaction. In some student samples, the number even went as high as 23%. So while emotional intelligence isn't the whole story, it's a substantial piece of the puzzle of well-being. So let's see a student story. This student always gets stomach knots when it's the exam period. His anxiety shows up as reflux, as nausea during these exams. And what did he do? He turned to doctors. They ran tests, but nothing seemed to be medically wrong. Finally, he realized what's going on in his body. His body is carrying the weight of that anxiety. When he connected those dots, like him having stomach pains, him experiencing anxiety, he learned to name what he is feeling. I'm anxious, I'm not sick. He labeled the thought and started to understand. He used relaxation and stress management, and the pain went away. He learned to live with this anxiety. Life will throw you curveballs, but the question is, how do you bounce back? Emotional intelligence is here to help you with that because it can have a really big impact on your mental health and resilience. Think of emotional intelligence as an armor. You can reframe challenges, you can regulate tough feelings, and the result is that you will be less likely to burn out in these situations. Emotional intelligence will not erase your anxiety, but it's one of the most powerful protective factors against it. Actually, emotional intelligence explains 20% of anxiety differences. So if your emotional intelligence is higher, you can experience less anxious attacks. Imagine this person. She is married happily. She thought her marriage would last forever, but one day it ended. And when it ended, the silence of her apartment, that felt unbearable. The grief felt unbearable. But what do people do when they grieve? You can turn to numbing yourself, or maybe you can just shut those feelings out. But what did she do? Instead of numbing herself, she leaned into her feelings. She started journaling, writing unsent letters. She started to sit in therapy, and her self-expression developed. And eventually, her laughter returned. The grief, it did not vanish, but it no longer owned her. She owned her feelings. Because instead of running away from them, she built resilience and she faced those feelings head on, and that's how she got out of grieving. Emotional intelligence is also a really big part of relationships and social situations. In your closest relationships, I think that you get that feeling that people get you. That's emotional intelligence in action. If you understand your own feeling and you empathize with others and the communication between you guys are getting better and the connection is gonna run deeper. If you have really strong emotional skills, they don't just transform romantic relationships or family life, they make you shine in every social situation because people can actually rely on you noticing their feeling and you expressing your own. If you have high emotional intelligence, there are a fewer chance of you being in a destructive conflict, and it's gonna mean that your communication is gonna be deeper with others. Here is a story about a couple. So imagine a kitchen, they are arguing, fighting about dirty dishes. The voices are raised, frustration builds, everything seems to be about the chores. The fight is about the chore. But one partner reframes. He asks if it's really about the dirty dishes or is it something more? It's about the partner feeling unappreciated. And in that moment, the conflict shifts because the conversation is about recognition, not exactly the dirty dishes. The partner needs are recognized and the unappreciation shows, and then they can empathize with each other and resolve the conflict itself. Okay, I'm gonna give you another example. So imagine this, a parent is coming home after a brutal day at work, the house is really loud, the kids are bouncing off the wall, dinner is still not ready, and every nerve in her body is screaming to yell. But instead, what does she do? She stops. She takes a big deep breath and the moment to pause. They say, okay, I need a second, I'm feeling really stressed out. And then what does she do? She lowers her tone, redirects the kids, and carry on. What happened here? So the parent, she modeled regulation, and the kids, they learn by example. So this was a really important lesson that they can learn. Because kids are like emotional sponges. They observe not just what you say, but what you react. They copy how you regulate your emotions, not just what you say. Parenting with emotional intelligence means turning chaos into calmness, helping your kids name their feelings, manage stress, and grow into a resilient and caring human being. Actually, parents with higher emotional intelligence, they raise kids to be more socially skilled at school, and it shows. Emotional intelligence is really the gateway to a fulfilled and happy life. So it has a huge impact on your overall happiness and life success. Emotions influence everything, your career, your health, your relationships, even your sense of purpose. Emotional intelligence sometimes matters more than IQ for the long-term success, because the more you understand your emotions, the more balanced and rewarding your life becomes. So imagine someone who has been doing the same job for years, but they get laid off. They feel this shock, this fear, this shame, self-doubt and despair, but they think to themselves, I have to process these feelings instead of spiraling. So that's how you turn a setback into a chance to explore a fulfilling work. A chance to have something more, to have something new. So it's not just luck that gets you out of that spiraling, that gets you through those hard emotions. It was emotional intelligence that helped them move through the storm, process those thoughts and emotions, and turn a crisis into a fresh start. When we developed our app, we didn't just want another emotional intelligence quiz. We wanted something real, something really practical. So we partnered with psychologists and ran our own research project. We defined emotional intelligence main components, main dimensions. We built a tool that's a scientific and reliable tool to measure your emotions and also have a personalized learning path to develop it. The problem with original tests were they were really too academic, too generic, so not really helpful. But our tool is really balanced. It's grounded in psychology, it's clear, but really practical. So you can develop your emotional intelligence in a personalized learning path. It's not just about measuring your emotional intelligence, it's about helping you develop in a way that really works for you. Okay, let me throw you a riddle. So two people, they have the exact same tough day. They got nitpicked by their boss, they had traffic, they are really exhausted. And when they get home, their partner is asking, "How was your day?" The first person. He snaps, he slams the door, leaves the partner confused. He just shuts down. And the partner does not know what she did wrong. And the other person, they pause. They say, "I'm really stressed right now, I need 10 minutes. Equals no fighting and no leaving the partner unanswered, unattended to. That was the same stress, completely different outcomes. The ability to notice and understand your emotions in real time is emotional awareness. When emotional awareness is strong, you can recognize stress, sadness, excitement when it arises and act with clarity. If you recognize, name, and communicate those feelings calmly, that's real awareness. If it's really weak, then you just feel off, you feel overwhelmed, you feel reactive without knowing why. Emotions take the wheel, you are not in control of them. So developing awareness is really learning how to live with those emotions and not letting them take control. Here is an exercise that you can practice. If you are sitting there thinking, "Oh my God, this is too hard for me, I don't even know what I'm feeling right now," here is a trick. Shift your attention to your body. Emotions always show up physically first. So do a quick body scan. Notice your chest tightness, your heavy shoulders, that lump in your throat, or maybe the opposite. Notice that buzz of energy like you are on edge and you cannot sit still. Notice those sensations and practice to label those emotions. Because actually, anxiety shows up in your body, in your tense shoulders. And if you can label that emotion, that's a massive step towards really understanding what's going on in your body and in your mind. There is an important distinction between emotional awareness and emotional expression. Awareness happens inside of you, and expression, that's happening between you and others. Awareness, it's about noticing and recognizing and naming that feeling, and expression is when you can voice that feeling to communicate them in a way that people can understand. Awareness is recognition, expression is translation. So it's a real change. The combination will equal a real change. Show your feeling, express them to others, make them understand what you are feeling. Instead of shutting down or exploding, give them a chance to understand. Let them see you. Let them see who you are. So how do you build emotional expression? Start really simple. Ask yourself daily, how do I feel? What am I feeling right now? Do emotional check-ins. Don't settle for good or bad. Aim for something more specific, like I am anxious right now, I feel relieved right now, I'm hopeful right now, or I'm frustrated right now. If it's really hard to name that feeling, maybe use a feeling wheel to find the right words. Because the more often you practice naming your emotions, the easier it gets to recognize them in that exact moment. So, the other side of the story is empathy, because it's not just about how you feel, how you name your feelings and how you express them, but also how others feel. You have to tune into what's happening for the people around you. That's where empathy comes in. It means stepping into someone else's world, a feeling that they feel. Empathy is not just about noticing, it's also about how you respond to others. If you help someone move through their stress or amplify the joy they are already feeling, that's really empathy. If your empathy is strong, you pick up on someone's mood from the change of their voice, from the way they move, or anything exactly. You feel it with them. If your empathy is quite weak, it's like the signals just don't land. You see their faces, but you don't understand their sadness. You see that something is off, but you miss the tone. Something is lost in the translation. Here is a question for you. When somebody is talking to you, your friend, your partner, your colleague, do you really listen? Not just nodding, not just being half on your phone, not just waiting for your turn to talk or deciding something really smart to say. Are you giving them your full attention? Because I dare you, the next time someone shares how they feel, notice their words, their tone, the emotions behind it. And here is the hard part. Resist the urge to jump in with another story or advice. Instead, just try to listen and understand what he or she is feeling. This skill is often called active listening. It's a really practical tool of stepping out of your own perspective and sensing someone else's world. Emotional intelligence is also helping you to live authentically. Authenticity means showing up as your real self. When your words, your actions, your feelings line up, that's gonna express to people that you are your real self. For example, Taylor Swift is a great example. She was mocked for being too personal, too raw with her music, but that raw honesty is what made billions of connections and billions of dollars for her. So really, it is worth it to be authentic to yourself. If you express emotions openly and constantly, people will trust you because they sense that you are real. If your authenticity is kind of weak and you hide your true self because you are so afraid of judgment, that's gonna distance others. There's gonna be a disconnection in those relationships. Because expressing your true self is quite risky because you feel exposed. But if you want to play it safe instead, that's where the disconnection is gonna happen. If you wanna practice, just check your values. Write down 3 or 5 values that are really important for you. For example, honesty, family, health, it can be even creativity. Then ask yourself, am I lining up with those values? And if not, make small adjustments. Say no when you mean no, and speak up when you stay silent before. Authenticity grows in those small actions, everyday choices. So you can do it too. Impulse control is a very useful ability in life because life is constantly testing you. That rude driver, that snarky coworker, your kids not listening, those are the moments where you can lose the control of your emotions. But if you can feel those emotions, but still choose a calm and balanced response, that's a strong impulse control from you. If it's kind of weak, then your emotions, they are gonna take over and you're gonna snap and blurt or regret your words later because you just blanked out and your emotions took control. If you want to practice this, then use the pause technique. When emotional surges, then take a moment, take a deep breath, silently count to 5 and ask yourself, what is my response? What outcome do I want here? This short pause will let you think and let your mind catch up to your feelings, and it's gonna help you respond in a way that you will be proud of. Okay, let's move on to our Q&A session. You guys had some questions, and we are gonna provide those answers. So, first, someone asked, I feel as I am fairly emotionally intelligent being. I am empathetic to a point where it hurts me. I can quickly pick up on things like social cues, mood shifts, manipulation, subtle ridicule, hidden motives, and etc. I always thought of emotional intelligence as my ability to empathize as a strength. However, I'm starting to realize how miserable it makes me, and I sometimes wish I was blind to it all so that I wouldn't need to care. The harsh reality is that I am overly aware of the point of misery. Here is the thing. Emotional intelligence does not mean absorbing every feeling around you. It is about awareness and regulation. You have to notice emotions without letting them drain you. You have to practice naming what's yours and what's not. When you pick up on someone else's mood, pause and ask yourself, is this my feeling? Do I have to carry it? Most of the time it isn't yours. This helps you avoid taking on emotions that don't belong to you. Create a micro boundary. You don't have to be open to every single emotional cue. You don't have to be open to every single at all time. If it feels overwhelming for you, gently just shift your focus back to your breathing, your posture, or maybe the task in front of you. Your goal is not to shut down your sensitivity, because it is a strength and it is a really positive way of living your life, but you have to filter it. This way, you keep your gift of empathy without letting it burn you out. Someone else says, stay away from low emotional intelligent people. Unless you want problems, constant migraines, an ever-increasing sense of self-worth, and months of heartbreak, stay away. That's a strong take, and I get where it comes from. Being around someone with low emotional intelligence, that can be draining. Constant misunderstandings, unresolved conflict, and self-doubt, that's a really hard feeling to have. You cannot control their level, but you can protect your own peace. So, what do you have to do? You have to spot those patterns early on. If you notice that they resist feedback, they constantly misinterpret what you are saying, and they avoid responsibility, adjust your expectations accordingly. If you sense that deeper conversations that always lead to drama, keep those conversations surface level. Limit your emotional exposure. Protect your energy. Anchor your self-worth. Remind yourself that your value does not depend on someone else who doesn't respect your emotions. Ground it in yourself, and it's a healthier way of connecting. Set your boundaries, because this is the key of protecting your peace. And that boundary may be sometimes meaning walking away, because protecting your peace may sometimes mean walking away from that person. But protecting your boundaries, it always means knowing your limits and holding on to them. So another person says, high-level emotional intelligence requires suffering. From my personal experience, I've noticed that everyone I meet, myself included, with a high level of emotional intelligence has experienced firsthand some form of abuse, be it personally or witnessing it. I'm curious if my thoughts are accurate. I mean, I get why you would make that connection, because going through something hard or even painful, traumatizing, those painful experiences, they definitely shape those certain emotional skills. Because hard experiences, like you said, abuse and trauma, can shape emotional skills, because you are being hyper aware of everything that you are surrounded by. But suffering isn't the only path to emotional intelligence. There are so many other ways to grow that skill. Through curiosity, relationships, role models, therapy, reflection, and also intentional practice, like if you download an app and you take lessons. If emotional intelligence is through pain, it is a strength, but also can be a burden, because that hypervigilance, what I was talking about, that's really exhausting. Just try to set boundaries and care for yourself without that constant strain. If emotional intelligence develops without that pain, it's just as real. You can gain it by exercise, feedback, and real-life practices. Your empathy, your awareness, and regulation will build and develop. The bottom line is, suffering can deepen that skill, but it is not required. What matters most is not how you got it, but how you use it for yourself and for others. With the right tools, such as guided exercises, feedback, and real-life practice in our app, you can strengthen your empathy, awareness, and regulation with no trauma required. So to wrap it up, emotional intelligence isn't about being perfect or never getting emotional. It's about awareness, expression, impulse control, empathy, and authenticity. These are the skills that will help you navigate your life and build better relationships, have less stress, and the good news is they are really trainable. Every pause you take, every boundary you set, every body scan you do, it's a wrap to build your emotional intelligence. Thank you so much for listening. If this episode resonated with you in any shape or form, try one of the practices we talked about. Maybe do a quick body scan, an emotional check-in, or simply just pause before you next react. Small steps like that, they can have big impact on your life. And if you want more support, don't forget to check out our app. It's designed to guide you through building these skills in a way that it fits your life. Until next time, take care of your emotions and they are gonna take care of you.